It's the 8th Sunday of autumn. On the 8th Sunday of the season, we call to mind the values and covenant section of our Unitarian Universalist bylaws, which says, as Unitarian Universalists, we covenant, congregation to congregation and through our association, to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Our opening hymn is number 298, Wake Now, My Senses.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web and creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, congregation, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the white sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience with Augustus thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place, but love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Elijah Evans, pronouns he, him, your celebrant associate this morning.
And I'm the Reverend Meredith Garmon, interim minister to this congregation, Zizir or he, him.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. A special welcome to our visitors. For those of you on Zoom, thanks for tuning in, and please be sure your mic is muted. If you are here with children, there is childcare, or feel free to keep them seated with you, or utilize our play area in the back.
Land acknowledgement.
Our building is located on land that has been home to humans for 12,000 years, starting with people of woodland culture and later the Iowa, Sauk, and Meskwaki. Other animals, such as the buff-breasted sandpiper, once migrated through these lands in much greater numbers. As we enter this space, the ghosts of humans and other animals past are among us. We are called to join in the work of education, reparation, and healing for all species.
Situating this moment in the cycles of nature.
Today is the 8th Sunday of autumn. The moon is waxing gibbous, and the beaver moon will be full on Friday night.
And on the Hindu calendar, the Friday full moon is the occasion of Kartik Purnima, a festival celebrating Lord Shiva's victory over the demon Tripurasara, and also celebrating Lord Vishnu, who on this day incarnated as his very first avatar, Matsya. Announcements.
For newcomers to our congregation, who may be curious to learn a little bit more about us, every first Sunday of the month, we have a curiosity conversation after the service. The next one will be December 1st in the back of this auditorium, just a few minutes after the end of the service that day.
This year's curriculum for our spiritual growth and learning is sketched in the thematic flyer available on the back table. Our theme for November is Reason. Our connection circles will be exploring that theme this month. If you're not in a connection circle, sign-up sheets usually were on the back wall, but you can sign up online and we'll have the sign-up sheets back next week. They're just outside. Thank you. Oh, there they are. They're on the back side wall. They're there. You can sign up. And the Reason booklets are available in a basket just outside the doors. You can pick up a copy there.
The ribbons you see displayed on our windows were put up last week. Each ribbon commemorates a loved one who is no longer with us. If you weren't here and would like to add a ribbon, we have ribbons on the back table on which you can write the name of a dear one who has died, then tie the ribbon to the twine.
And the minister's discretionary fund allows me to extend the congregation's generosity when our financially struggling neighbors come to ask for help. To contribute to that fund, you can grab a marked envelope from the back table, put your contribution in that, and drop it in the offering basket when it comes around.
Our Unitarian Universalist Association selected a common read for all UUs 2024 and 2025. It's Danya Ruttenberg's On Repentance and Repair. You have just one more week to get it read before we have our forum to discuss the book next Sunday.
And now we light our chalice.
On the 8th Sunday of the season, we dedicate our chalice to our Unitarian Universalist heritage of freedom, reason, hope, and courage. Please join with me in the chalice lighting words from William Schultz on the screen. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands.
We are a people of covenant, not of creed, and we express our covenant in various ways: our denomination's bylaws, our bond of union, our mission, and our relational covenant. Today, please join me in affirming our congregation's mission. Words on the screen. We covenant together to advance our mission, to love radically, grow ethically and spiritually, and serve justly.
Our responsive reading today is number 650 in your hymnal. I will read the unitalicized words, and you will respond with the italicized ones. Cherish your doubts, for doubt is the attendant of truth. A belief which may not be questioned binds us to error, for there is incompleteness and imperfection in every belief. Doubt is the touchstone of truth. It is an acid which keeps away from false. Let no one fear for the truth, that doubt may consume it, for doubt is a testing of belief. The truth stands boldly and unafraid. It is not shaken by the testing. For truth, if it be truth, arises from each testing stronger, more secure. Those that would silence doubt are filled with fear. Their houses are built on shifting sands. But those who fear not doubt and know its use are founded on rock. They shall walk in the light of growing knowledge. The work of their hands shall endure. Therefore, let us not fear doubt, but let us rejoice in its help. Our sung invocation words are on the screen.
All who dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every land, by every tongue.
Hello, Faithiana Leonard, she, her pronouns, and today's story is Choices Are My Superpower by Alicia Ortego. Hello, my name is Lucas. I love to have some fun, like watching butterflies with wings that stun. Nature's my playground, hiking and running free, biking in parks, the best adventure spree. But yesterday, after a bike competition, I felt sad. So I went to the garage looking for my dad.
What's up, buddy?
He asked me with a smile so kind. I hesitated, then shared what was on my mind. I have a friend at school, let's call him Eek. A truly awesome guy. He's really quite unique. But at the race, he made mistakes one by one. He took a shortcut through bushes, and victory was won. His friends yelled, "Cheater!" with disdain, but Eek's face scowled, filled with anger and pain. He kicked a rock, stumbled, and hurt his knee. Though he won, sadness consumed him, you see. Although he won the competition, he felt sad all day long because he knew what he did was unfair and wrong.
What should Eek have done?
My dad replied. Played fair and had fun, I said, feeling inspired. Dad said,
He's learned a valuable lesson, that is true. Though he can't change the past, he can start anew. Listening to your inner voice is quite smart. It helps you make choices right from the heart. Imagine a traffic light, red, yellow, green, each color guiding you like a superhero scene. Red means stop, think before you go. Yellow means hang on, take it slow. Green means go. Choose what's kind and right. Using your powers, make your day bright.
Amazed by this advice from my dad's heart, I admitted Eek's story was mine from the start. I confessed the truth, admitting it was me, and then my dad thanked me for my honesty. I said sorry to my friends, clearing the air, promised not to cheat again, showing them I care. Their smiles then returned, together we played. Choosing what's fair, our friendship won't fade. Morning came and I leaped from my bed.
Morning, little man, brush your teeth.
My mom said. Oh man, what a boring way to start my day. I wanted so badly just to go outside and play. But then I remembered the traffic lights and Dad, so I stopped and thought about the choices I had. I could run outside without brushing the germs away, and thus risk my teeth falling out someday. So I decided to make the correct choice from the start, feeling proud of myself for doing my part. On the playground, different games filled the air. Instead of arguing, we decided to share. Combining our fun, oh, what a blast. Tiredness hit, but homework was to be done. Skipping it crossed my mind, I knew it wouldn't be fun. But instead, listening to my voice to be responsible and wise, I finished all my tasks, feeling proud inside.
Choices shape our day. It really is true.
Making good decisions is a superpower in you.
Think twice. Make your day sparkle and glow.
Green light choices are the best way to go.
So remember, my friend, with each choice you make,
be a superhero choosing goodness for goodness sake.
Good morning. I'm Jill Fitz. This is Susan Seitz. And here we go again, Susan. Do you remember what Bruce's accompaniment suggests to us?
Well, circle suppers for sure. And are you aware, Joe, this is the last chance today to sign up for the 4th round of circle suppers?
No kidding. Have we been attending these dinner parties for that long?
Yes, the special dining experience has been available and joyfully attended for the past couple of years.
Well, it's true when you are feeling down and out, as some of us are feeling now. It is nice to be able to go to a place where everyone knows your name. And they're always glad you came. A place where you can see that our troubles are all the same.
Yes, circle suppers do offer that to all of us.
Correct. And we also get a lovely meal prepared by the group, as well as interesting conversations.
Remind everyone where these occur.
Well, they can be held at one of the members' homes, or at a restaurant, or here at the church, or at another venue, such as out of doors in a park if the weather permits.
And who can attend these?
Well, who can attend these?
Just say everyone is welcome.
Everyone is welcome. She put in a question. Everyone is welcome, whether they attend by themselves or bring a friend, or you could even bring your spouse.
I know it's a worthwhile way for me to spend my time.
And there are even more benefits.
Like what?
Well, if I can just read it. You get to practice important character traits, such as patience, resilience, appreciation, and understanding of yourself and the other group members, and get this, generosity of spirit.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. You also get to know everyone in your group's names and something about them. And the same goes for them getting to know about you. We find out how much we enjoy each other.
Remember, our last sign up is just outside the door at a table. See you there.
Good morning. My name is Laura Berardi. I'm a pastoral care associate for our congregation, and I'm filling in for Barb Glass this morning. If you are going through any significant transition in your life, it can be helpful to process what you're feeling with a member of our pastoral care team. You can reach out to us at pastoralcareteam@ucdsm.org. You can also request assistance, volunteer to provide it, or submit a joy or sorrow through the Caring Community page on our website, or by speaking to any member of the pastoral care team. We have the following joys and sorrows to share today. We are holding 2 of our longtime members in our hearts who are in hospice care. Pat Winters moved to Portland, Oregon some time ago to be with her son, but she loves this community so much she kept her membership here. Across the physical distance that separates us, we hold Pat and her family in love. Hazel Zimmerman is another longtime member we are sending love to. Hazel is in hospice care at home with her son Paul caring for her. Cards to the home are welcomed, so they know we are thinking of them. Walter Tomlinson shares that his father, William Tomlinson, died this past Monday. May the care of this community support him in the days and weeks to come. Services for John Royal, who died November 1st, will be held here at First Unitarian on November 23rd at 11 a.m. And services for Caesar Smith, who died October 19th, will be held in the spring. Losses have been heavy this season. Loss in many shapes and forms. Hold yourselves gently. Extend a hand or a hug to those who are struggling. And if joy has found you, please consider sharing it with us. Thank you. As the saying goes, shared joy is double joy. Shared sorrow is half a sorrow. May we hold and share it all in this time we have together. Let us share together now the names of anyone we know who could use some special care and attention. You may call the name out loud, or if you're with us on Zoom, type it into the chat. As we share these names, may the love of this community hold them all.
The New York Times guest essay last week by Sarah Sherbill was titled, "You Might Consider Praying." Sherbill notes, many of us were raised to believe that prayer is about communicating with God. It can be, of course. She then adds, but prayer can also be a way of communicating with ourselves, a tool of self-inquiry. It can be entirely our own, bespoke. Anne Lamott's little book about prayer is titled, Help, Thanks, Wow. And that title are the 3 words that prayer is about. Help. Yes, in prayer we make requests, but it's not like a teenager asking parents for some money. It's just a way of acknowledging to yourself that there's something you could use some help with, whether you ever get it or not. You say, here's what I'm struggling with. Thanks. Prayer is a practice of orienting ourselves toward gratitude. Prayer can be less a request than a thank you, says Sherbill. It can be a list of everything you're grateful for. And wow. What has been inspiring lately? What has filled you with awe and wonder? Taking a moment to focus on that helps us cultivate a life of wonder. Someone will hear your prayer, says Sherbill, even if that someone is you. We need to learn how to pray again, she concludes, so we can see ourselves anew. Also, I would add, it seems to help to address the prayer to something. Traditionally, it's to God. I usually address the prayer to the Spirit of life and love, or to the ground of being, or to the source of healing and wholeness we call by many names, or to the universe, or to reality. We are talking to ourselves, but it helps to pretend to address our words to someone or something. So, dear Spirit of love, We are struggling this week with so many feelings about Tuesday's election. Despair, anger, fear, alienation. We struggle to make sense of it, to see the meaning in it. In these times, I think of Saint Benedict and the order he drew up, the rules and procedures by which a monastery could function. Benedict of Nursia, I recall, was born in the year 480, amidst the crumbling remnant of what had been the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire had never been a model of democracy, equality, or social justice. It was an extreme patriarchy with outright slaves and women having not much higher status. Still, it was, in its way, a moral order, with schools of learning for at least the privileged, and promulgating a coherent set of civic virtues. And when it collapsed, where amid the barbarism could learning and civility be preserved? Benedict's order created sustainable communities, monasteries where learning and moral virtues could survive. Philosopher Alistair MacIntyre, writing in 1981, more than 40 years ago, said back then that a new dark age had already begun. He said, "What matters at this stage is the construction of local forms of community within which civility and the intellectual and moral life can be sustained through the new dark ages which are already upon us." We are waiting, not for Godot, wrote MacIntyre, but for another, doubtless very different, Saint Benedict. But 3 years before, in 1978, a poem by June Jordan presented to the United Nations declared, "We are the ones we've been waiting for. Us." So that's a very different Saint Benedict indeed. Still, what matters is what MacIntyre said matters: construction of local forms of community within which civility and the intellectual and moral life can be sustained through the new dark ages which are already upon us. And so, dear Spirit of love, this is my prayer, our word to ourselves that we might hear. Let us have the courage and wisdom, the discipline and the commitment to keep alive this community, to expand and strengthen its capacity to sustain all who come here, and to lead them in the ways of righteousness, the ways of love, of justice, compassion, and peace, with equal concern for all and equal respect for all. Amen.
May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world, and may we not look away when we are needed. May we confront what is cruel, heal what is broken, and delight in what is good. We light 3 candles, one for the joys and sorrows shared aloud, one for those shared in writing, and one for those held silently among us. For all these, we now observe a minute of silence.
We come now to the offering, recalling our denominational covenant. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. The offering, then, is gratefully given and gratefully received. In the spirit of gratitude, of which the offering is an expression, I mention now 3 of the more than 30 items currently on our Singing Gratitude bulletin board. Thank you, Pat Headley, for chairing the Grounds Committee so ably for years and helping bring our new kitchen to fruition. Thank you, Barb Royal and Dagny Fidley, for leadership of a course last fall on eldership. Thank you, Tom Thurtell, for steady presence, hard work, and good cheer with the building team. In gratitude, then, we give, for in gratitude, we receive.
Reason is an appealing idea. I think we have to admit that we have a pretty egocentric basis for valuing reason. We secretly think that we ourselves are perfect reasoners. We harbor the suspicion that if only those other people, the ones that disagree with us, could be taught to rely on proper reasoning, then they wouldn't be so foolish and pig-headed. But one, that ain't gonna happen. Those others are thinking the same way you're thinking, that they are the reasonable ones and you are the one benighted, laboring under various biases, prejudices, and irrational impulses. And 2, this is a church. It's a faith institution. oriented toward spiritual maturation, and spiritual maturation recognizes that it's always only ourselves that we can work on. We can train ourselves to be more rational if being more rational is really what we want. First, give up certainty about anything. Train yourself to have no factual beliefs apart from probability estimates. Hold nothing to be beyond a shadow of a doubt. And second, learn Bayes' theorem and develop the habit of applying it everywhere. What is Bayes' theorem? Well, you start with your prior probability, your estimate of how likely something is, and adjust it from there in light of new data. Posterior probability is equal to prior probability times the likelihood of the new data divided by the commonness of the new data. I am not going to try to unpack or explain that. I do try to explain some of it in our packet for this month on reason, so if you're interested, start there. For today, I want to look at reason in the light of the battle between reason and intuition, and specifically how that battle plays out in our moral decision-making. To what extent do we use reason in thinking about what's right and what's wrong? And to what extent do we just set aside reason and go with our moral intuition? Some things just feel wrong or just feel right. We don't arrive at those feelings through a careful, rational deliberation. There was, not long ago, a one-man show in London called The Majority. The writer and performer, Bob Drummond, would ask the audience to vote on a variety of ethical questions. The audience members on the way in were issued an electronic keypad and were invited to vote yes or no on a series of propositions prompted by the narrative. The tally was instantly displayed. The show itself, or so it claimed, could go in different directions depending on how the audience voted. The night that Sophie Gilbert was there, she's the reviewer from whose piece I learned about this show, when the question was, do you believe in absolute freedom of speech? 62% said no. Is violence sometimes the answer? 51% said no. And then Drummond presented the trolley problem, a scenario familiar to me from my years of trying to engage undergraduates to think about morality. Suppose you are standing on a platform and you see below you a runaway trolley headed for 5 people who have no chance of getting out of the way. They'll all be killed. However, you just happen to be standing next to a lever which, due to your familiarity with that trolley station, you know will redirect the trolley onto a sidetrack. Just as you reach for the lever, you notice that the sidetrack has one person there who likewise has no chance to get out of the way. If you pull the lever, he'll be killed. Do you pull the lever to kill one person, or let fate take its course, killing 5? The night that Sophie Gilbert attended The Majority, 71% of the audience said they would pull the lever to sidetrack the trolley to kill one person rather than not act and let 5 people die. And then Rob Drummond asked his audience, suppose there were no lever, but a very large man was standing next to you, peering over the edge of the platform. You could push him off onto the path of the trolley. He would be killed, but his large body would stop the trolley or slow it down enough for the 5 to get to safety. Morally, isn't that the same? Kill 1 to save 5? And yet, 71% said they would not push the large man off, the same percentage that would pull the lever the first time. More scientific surveys of the US population show an even wider gulf between willingness to pull the lever and willingness to push someone to their death. About 90% of us say they would pull the lever, while about 90% of us say we would not push the large man. I get where people are coming from. My moral intuitions were shaped by socialization very similar to theirs. But are our intuitions rational and reasonable? Do we want our moral intuitions to be rational? Sometimes our moral intuitions seem hard to justify. First, is it really okay to kill one to save 5? And second, if killing one to save 5 is okay, then why is doing it by pulling a lever different from doing it by pushing someone to his death? On the first question, people who say they would not pull the lever say they couldn't live with the fact that their direct action killed a person, though they can live with their inaction killing 5. By doing nothing, the responsibility is on whoever let that trolley get out of control. But by pulling the lever, you take direct responsibility for killing that one person. But aren't you just as responsible for your decisions not to act as you are for a decision to act? Let's look at that question. Are you just as responsible for your voluntary action as you are just as responsible for your involuntary action as you are for your voluntary inaction as for your voluntary action? So consider this. For $2 US donated to the Against Malaria Foundation, 1 mosquito net can be provided to areas of Africa at highest risk of malaria. A lot of people die of malaria. The World Health Organization reports 608,000 deaths from malaria in 2022, mostly children under age 5, and 90% of the malaria cases occur in sub-Saharan Africa. For $2, you could have saved one of them. Well, maybe. Some people with the nets get malaria anyway, and some people without the nets manage not to get it, or they get it but recover. So it's not a one-to-one relationship between nets provided and lives saved. But if you buy, say, 20 nets, there's a good chance that at least one of the 20 recipients will be a person who otherwise would have died of malaria, but thanks to the mosquito net you provided, doesn't. So call it $40 to save a life. But you haven't sent the Against Malaria Foundation $40, have you? I had not either until yesterday when I was writing this sermon and steeped in thinking about this example. And even though I have now sent a donation, I could have made it $40 larger than I did, but I didn't. And that inaction cost a life, probably. Compare that to a different case. You get an email from Africa, but instead of saying that they need your assistance to get $60 million out of a Nigerian bank account, this one says, "I'm a farmer and I really hate my neighbor. I want to kill him. I went to our local shaman and he said, it's okay for me to kill my neighbor, but only if I can get an American Unitarian Universalist to say that it's okay. If I send you $40, will you send me an email that simply says, you may kill your neighbor? Now, if you got such an email, you would probably say, this is really weird. You would hit delete and go on with your day. But what would you think of someone, let's call her Pam, who replied, let's see the $40. Suppose the check arrives. Pam deposits it, and it clears, and Pam keeps her end of the bargain. She sends an email saying, you may kill your neighbor. Finally, suppose the guy in Africa then kills his neighbor. How does that compare to the malaria situation? Do we not find Pam's action more appalling than the inaction of someone who did not contribute to the Against Malaria Foundation? Yet in both cases, there's $40 more in the American's pocket than there otherwise would be, and there's a death in a faraway place as a result. So maybe we aren't as responsible for a decision not to act as we are for a decision to act. Or maybe you'd still want to say that we are. These cases illustrate that reason can sometimes be at loggerheads with our moral intuitions. I'll pick up from there after the interlude. Bruce, how about something conflicted? 2 points I want to make in this part are, 1, moral intuitions are crucial. We need them. Reason is too slow and plodding to do the job alone. 2, moral intuitions are also problematic. Our intuitions can be easily manipulated to our detriment, yet are stubbornly resistant to evidence that they are misguided. That is, they are easily swayed by non-rational factors, even as they refuse to be swayed by reason. Bringing in reason, plodding as it is, can slowly tend to correct for the limitations of our moral intuitions. To the first point, our unreasoning feelings are very important for making moral decisions. Our moral intuitions are there to guide us in real-life situations where we don't have the kind of certainty that the trolley scenario asks us to assume that we did have. No matter how much you are told that you know pulling the lever will save 5 and kill 1 person on the sidetrack 40 yards away, and that you know pushing the large man onto the track will likewise save 5, the damage of pulling a lever just doesn't feel as probable as the harm of pushing someone right next to you off a platform into the trolley's path. And thus, we cannot help but recoil from the near, more concrete harm more than we do from the distant, more abstract harm, which is also surely a factor in why you haven't sent $40 to the Against Malaria Foundation. Malaria is so far away. Consider what life would be like without the moral emotions. Patients who suffer damage to the ventromedial prefrontal cortex lose their emotionality. Psychologist Jonathan Haidt explains, they could look at the most joyous or gruesome photographs and feel nothing. They retained full knowledge of what was right and wrong. They showed no deficits in IQ. They score well on tests of moral reasoning. Yet, when it came to making decisions in their personal lives and at work, they made foolish decisions or no decisions at all. They alienated their families, their employers, and their lives fell apart. You need your gut instincts, your moral intuitions, even if you can't rationally justify or explain them. Contrast, for example, the kind of decision that reason is really good for. You need to buy a new washing machine, and you have to choose from 10 options. Assuming that you have no brand loyalty, you list your criteria and you do some research on how each machine rates on each of your criteria. Price, energy efficiency, water use, load capacity, cleaning efficacy, durability, and repair record. You work out some way of balancing the strengths in some areas with weaknesses in others, and you make your selection. Now, imagine what your life would be like if at every moment, in every social situation, picking the right thing to do or say became like picking the best washing machine among 10 options, minute after minute, day after day. You would make foolish decisions too. That's what life is like for people with ventromedial prefrontal cortex damage. Moral intuitions tied to our emotional reactivity give us shortcuts. They, more than our rationality, provide us with a basic sense of right and wrong that we draw from at dozens, if not hundreds, of decision points every day. Reasoning it all out is just too slow and tedious. Now to my second point. Important as intuitions are, they are limited and sometimes wrong. Our problem is that these feelings are highly resistant to reason. Thought experiments like the trolley conundrum illustrate that a feeling of the wrongness of an action is hard to shake, even for a hypothetical scenario in which you are repeatedly reminded that one of the conditions is that you know that the counterintuitive action would have the better results. While reason has a hard time swaying moral conclusions, non-rational factors sway our judgment with worrisome ease. Our moral decisions, sometimes even life or death decisions, are not very carefully considered. Studies have revealed that people shown a comedy clip and then asked whether they would push the large man to his death are more likely to approve killing the large man than those in another group who were shown a tedious documentary about a Spanish village. We are more generous toward a stranger if we have just found a quarter. A judge's decision to grant parole depends on how long it has been since she or he had lunch. Subjects asked to make judgments about controversial moral questions, for example, marriage between first cousins, or the making of a documentary in which people were tricked into being interviewed, make harsher moral judgments if they are standing next to a smelly trash can than if they are not. It seems that moral disgust and physical disgust both involve some of the same circuits in the brain, so if the disgust reaction is given a little jump start by a smelly trash can, we are primed to feel moral disgust as well. Even what feels like a deep-rooted moral instinct can be pretty fickle or easily manipulated. What candidates actually say in the course of a campaign has little impact on voters. Most voters just take in the vibe and let their unconscious biases pull them toward trust or distrust. Now, I know you're thinking about those people who vote differently from you, but let me pull you back here. I'm talking about you and me. Completely irrelevant factors that shift how we feel about the world, and a good feeling about the world benefits the incumbents. In areas that have a strong college football fan base, it was found that if their team won its most recent game before the November election, the incumbent candidate got a big boost. In the end, reason is our only hope. It is slow and it is plodding and it is pretty useless for day-to-day moral decision-making where our emotional habits of right and wrong guide us, and our biases are just consistent enough to lend us an appearance of integrity. How slow is reason? We learn our moral and emotional habits from our society, our community. It's our socialization, and it's passed down. For reason to successfully call into question a moral habit may take generations. That's how slow reason is. Firm moral habits held widely 200 years ago upheld slavery. Those of 150 years ago denied women the right to vote. Those of 50 years ago denied marriage equality to same-sex couples. And those of 10 years ago tacitly accepted the public presence of Confederate monuments. Those who pressed questions, asking for rational justification of these habits, gradually brought about a shift. Are darker and lighter-skinned humans so different that it's reasonable for the latter to enslave the former? Why shouldn't women vote? Why shouldn't gay people marry and have family lives? Why do we still have Confederate monuments? Repeatedly pressing such questions eventually pushes human brains to draw on parts other than the ventromedial prefrontal cortex in the quest to articulate defensible reasons. I am not keen to question all of our moral shortcuts. I want a life that feels sacredness, even if there's no good reason for it. I want a life where at least some of my loyalty can be taken for granted without being subject to a need to rationally justify it. I want a life where I trust authorities like scientists who tell me about climate change when I can't make the calculations myself. We need our moral shortcuts. For all their irrationality and fickleness and manipulability, we would be uprooted, adrift, and lost without them. The spiritual lesson of this is, first, humility. What feel like our strongest convictions aren't so strong in a different set of circumstances. And what seems like ironclad logic is probably an illusion of rationalization. So let us hold our own opinions with humility. Don't believe what you think. Second, relatedly, let us try to have empathy for those with whom we disagree. Yes, their brains have built-in biases. Our brains were built the same way and are just as biased. So let us seek to replace the urge to be right with the call to love. And let us try, not all the time, but sometimes, to take the time to take the slow road of entertaining hard questions about whether our most precious moral intuitions really are justified. And finally, one other thing. Maybe visit the Against Malaria Foundation website and send them a donation. Amen.
Our next hymn is number 339, Knowledge They Say.
Knowledge they say drives wonder from the womb. They say it's still the world that does ablaze, with marvels at their feet, while Newton's laws foretell that knowledge one day shall be strong. We seem like children wandering by the moon, gathering petals colored by the wave, while the great sea of truth from sky to sky stretches before us, boundless, unexplored.
Please say with me our unison chalice extinguishing words displayed on the screen. The chalice is now extinguished. Not up there yet, excuse me.
Start over.
The chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each one of us. We will carry that flame with us as we leave this place and share it with those we know, with those we love, and with those we have yet to meet.
Words of Rabbi Tarfon. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. You are not asked to solve all those problems, nor are you free to abandon them. Go in peace.